One. Hello, everybody. This is Dom from Upstate Supernatural, and this week we have a brand new episode of Interview with a Ghost Hunter with a special guest this week with John Mizzi. If I'm pronouncing your last name wrong, I apologize about that. More than welcome to correct me at any time.
Close enough.
But I'd like to welcome John onto the show, and I hope everybody that's tuned in and viewing, you're in for an interesting time. John has some very interesting stories and interesting techniques. If you aren't subscribed to us, feel free to click the link below. Also, if you have any questions or comments or ideas for us to make the shows better or different things you'd like to see us do, leave that in the comments below. We'll also be answering questions later on during the show towards the middle half. In the first half, we'll just go ahead and ask questions. John, I'm going to go to you and let you introduce yourself a little bit.
Sure. Um, well, I'm your typical paranormal investigator, I guess. I started out growing up in a haunted house as a child, and it fascinated me for a very long time. And then, but it was really difficult to talk to people about it. So I just kept quiet. Everybody, as usual, thinks you're a woo-woo and, that there's something wrong with you and because you believe in ghosts. And then one day I was on the internet. The internet came about, and I was on the internet, and I actually saw Dave Giuliano's website, Shadowlands. And I read his story about growing up in a haunted house, and it inspired me. And I said, wow, if this guy can do it, I can do it. And I searched for a paranormal group in the Toronto area up here in Canada. And I stayed with them for quite a number of years, and we learned a lot together. And I found out that EVPs were the only thing that was giving me a lot of evidence that I could actually find tangible, and I knew that that it wasn't just luck or something that sounds like it, but it was true voices on tape that didn't belong there. And so I stayed with that group for quite a long time, and then we parted ways. And I have a background in electronics and music and repair, mechanical repair. So I used all of those things, and analyzing the EVP footage that I got, I started building equipment to improve on that. And that's about where I am now.
All right. The first question I kind of had for you, you already did, which is if you could tell us your name and the group that you work with. So I'm going to skip that one. But the next one I have is how long have you been investigating within the paranormal? A lot of people, have been dabbling in and out for quite a few years. How long would you say you've probably been investigating?
Well, I've never been out. And in fact, that's actually unusual for me. I don't usually end up lasting a long time in a hobby, but this one has been fascinating, and I've been in it maybe 14 or 15 years now. And like I said, I've learned a lot. Spent a lot of time developing these things. So that's about 14 years, yeah.
Okay. And then the next question is, what caused you to truly become interested in the field of ghost hunting? I mean, was it you lived in the haunted house, but you kind of learned to live with that. Was there more to like what pushed you to truly dedicate yourself within the field?
Well, when I grew up in that haunted house, it was an extremely intense haunting. Um, couldn't sleep at night. Man, it not because I was afraid, but because um, like it would physically keep me up. There was things walking up and down the hall all night long, keeping me up, sitting at the end of the bed. I mean, it was terrifying at some point. And then I left and I went to another country and small island where my parents are from, which is Malta. And then I came back here to Canada. And actually, in Malta, it all stopped when I left. And it didn't start again until I was about 16 or 17 years old and I started seeing apparitions again. But to answer your question, I, I had so many people not believe me when I told them what happened. Even members of my own family didn't believe me. Others have. Um, but my family was divided about it. My father denied it until his deathbed. And then on his deathbed, he admitted that he thought that there was something there. So it was all about proof. When I first got into this, it was all about proving that the paranormal actually existed. And but then I realized that in a lot of times, like when you hear my stuff, you're going to say, "Oh, that may not be true, or may not be real, or he's hoaxing, or something." Because some of it is really fantastic, but it doesn't matter to me whether now at this point whether you believe me or not. I've proved it to myself. I know that the paranormal exists by what I've seen and what I've heard and what I've worked with, and but what I originally started was just to get proof, to prove to somebody that I'm not crazy, that what I'm seeing is real, and what I was experiencing was real, and now that doesn't matter anymore because of I guess because of human nature. You could probably take a ghost, put it up on stage, stick it in a cage, and poke it with a stick, and half the audience would believe you, and half the audience wouldn't believe you. So there's really I don't think there's any sense in trying to prove it to everybody. Just present the evidence, and if you want to believe it, that's great. And if you don't want to believe it, that's fine. I'm not going to argue with you, but to me, I proved it to myself. It exists. I like the science of it right now, and that's why I'm going further and further into discovering about paranormal activity, but only because I just really, really like tinkering with things, and that's why I do what I'm doing now.
All of us have some interesting stories. Is there a particular story that really hits you that you would like to tell? I mean, a lot of us investigators out there, the show is really based on the realness of true investigators out in the field, not what you see on TV where it's kind of situated by producers and all that type of stuff, but real accounts of real things that have happened. Is there a particular story that you can think of that you would like to share?
Would you want it something from my investigation days or from my earlier days of being haunted?
Whichever you feel comfortable with. You know, whichever you feel is probably one of the more interesting stories.
Well, there's let's see what we got here. There's so many of them. When I get this stuff, it just freaks me out. Are we ready to? Can we play some like Can we play an EVP?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, so let me just give you a little intro. Scary story. Well,
Do you want me
this
to do the number 9? Is that the one?
well, okay.
Or the first one? So
Well, let's do number 9. Let's try and I'll show you. Number 9 is my last EVP that I got, and number 9 is probably the scariest one, and it still baffles me to this day, and I'm still thinking about it. And I actually had to take a break because of it, because I was worried about my family. And it goes like this. My wife and I, of course, we've been investigating for quite a number of years. So my kids, who are older now, they're 20 or 30 and 27. They've grown up and moved away, but they're quite familiar with our paranormal investigative antics. And my daughter lives about 2 hours away from me. And at the same time, I was developing a new device, which I call my hat microphone. And I hadn't tried it yet. So I wasn't sure how long it was going to work, but I was planning to use it on that upcoming weekend. This happened on a Thursday. My daughter calls up, and she calls up my wife, and she says, "What are you guys doing?" And my wife says, "Nothing. Well, what's going on?" And we were sort of planning and half planning to use my microphone, my hat mic, which is actually right here. There's a little quick glimpse of it. I know you've never seen anything like that before, and you'd probably look like a dork wearing it, but it's actually quite effective. So anyway, my daughter says, she says, I was standing at the bus stop. It's 9:30 at night, and something comes up behind her and whispers in her ear and goes, "Psst," like this. So my wife says, "Well, we're not really doing anything right now," because I was working on this special device. And she says, "Well, you guys must be doing something, because there was nobody around, and this thing did this." And we said, "Well, okay, this, what can you do? I don't know. Maybe you imagined it. I'm not sure." So, anyways, we took the unit the first time, hopped in the car, and we have a special place, and it's actually a cemetery, and it's about maybe 5 minutes away from where I live. And it was the first place that I'd ever gotten EVPs. And so, and over the years, we've gotten quite a number of extremely good EVPs there. And so we thought this was a perfect venue to try my hat mic. And it was 9:30 on a Sunday morning. So think about it. It's bright and sunny. It's 9:30 on a Sunday morning. Nothing scary about that. We were reading off cemetery headstones and talking about the people that might be interred in there. And about this cemetery is out in the country, and there's no fences around it. That's why we like it, because we're not doing anything illegal being there, and it's open to the public. Off to one side of there is a forest. And in the forest, there are actually people buried in the forest right beside it. And we were at the opposite end of the cemetery. But what's really funny is you're going to hear the first time something was said. And this is actually not an EVP. It's actually more clairaudience. So I heard what was said, and my hat mic actually picked it up and recorded it with extreme clarity. And then, if you listen very carefully, and I suggest that if you can watch this broadcast again, listen to it with a pair of headphones on, and you'll be able to even pick out more. But you'll hear it say it first, and then you will hear it again. But at that point, it's echoing, because it's at the opposite end of the cemetery. Within a few seconds, it traveled to the opposite end of the cemetery and did it again, and you can hear it echoing in the forest. And only my wife and I were there at the cemetery at this time. So, now that I've set that up, Dom, if you want to play number 9.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to play that in about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
There's another rainy one over there. Yes. Psst. What does that mean? Did you say that?
What?
Did you go psst?
No.
Okay. You trying to get my attention?
And that's gonna play again.
Well, this is another rainy too.
Yeah, these are.
Yeah, you can go ahead because I
There's
can't
another
hear it
rainy
here
one over there.
on mine because I'm not getting the other feed side, so I'm just got the Skype
Yes.
feed. Tell me, let me know when it's over.
Psst. What does that mean? Did you say that?
What?
Did you go psst?
No.
Okay. You trying to get my attention?
Dom, just let me know when you're
This is
finished
another
playing it.
rainy too.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'll let you know.
these are rain. There's another rainy one over there. Yes. Psst. What does that mean? Did you say that?
What?
Did you go psst?
No.
Okay. You trying to get my attention?
Well, this is another rainy too.
Yeah, these are rain.
All right, and it's all set playing now.
Okay. So, Dom, did you hear it?
I actually, regrettably, I can't hear it either because we're both on the same thing. But anybody in the audience is able to hear that perfectly clear.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah,
They-
they're saying right in there that clear as day. Wow, that was clear. So,
Yeah, great. And again, the reason it is so clear is because I've gone in an opposite direction to what everybody else is doing. And when I say that we need to look at how we're recording rather than what we're recording with, this hat mic was designed to no white noise, not to have interference from any of the components or any radio signals. And so when it records for a very, like, it can pick up whispers for a very long distance and a 360-degree pattern, and it does it extremely clearly. And the amplification circuitry in there really allows it to pick up from long distances. So when you hear it, this is pretty well the clearest you're ever going to hear an EVP. And the first time everybody heard psst, that was actually occurring in my ear at the time. And listen, if you go to listen to this again, you can hear it a few seconds later in the trees, and it says psst again in the trees so loud that it's actually echoing off the trees. And the fact that it had done the same thing to my daughter 3 days before scared the crap out of me. It really did, and I had to have a break at that point. And now I'm getting back into it again, but that really scared the crap out of me. It really did. So that's one of the scariest ones. If you want to hear another one, there's number 6. Dom, if you want to set it up, and I'll give the background story. I went to a very famous haunted location here in Canada called the Bala Inn. Now, I've been to famous haunted locations in the Toronto area and other areas, and normally I usually get nothing because either they've already been exorcised, there's too many people in there. I usually get no responses. And when I went to the Bala Inn, I went for a radio program where there were 2 disc jockeys, and we spent the night there. And actually, it was on October 28th of that year. And we were making recordings, and we were getting stuff left, right, and center. We couldn't believe this. This was actually captured on my hat mic, I think. Yeah, my hat mic. And it it really surprised me because there were no children on this investigation. There was an investigation team plus 2 disc jockeys, and it's hard to make out. And the really cool thing about this is that there are multiple EVPs, and this has just recently started happening to me, where I'm getting multiple EVPs coming out at one time. It's like we open a window and they all want to talk, and they all say a bunch of stuff at the same time. And this one includes a maid and a baby. Now, Dom, you go ahead and play it.
Okay. As I play it, it's probably going to be like a minute or so because I'm going to play it like 2 to 3 times. Another question I actually had for you: is your home known to be haunted? Because I'm actually hearing audible stuff through your microphone while you're talking, like a female voice. Hey, John, I think is a voice that I just heard in the midst of you talking.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me. Yes, this home is haunted. We have lived with the apparitions from the previous owners, and it seems to be a bit of a portal. They come in from the back door and exit through the front door, and yes, it's a female. And a quick story on that one. We first moved into the house, and there have been many hauntings here. My wife would see a shadow person woman, peeking around the corner at us all the time, from the basement into the kitchen. Of course, I'm renovating my house, always renovating. I'm in the back bedroom, and I'm laying down a laminate floor in the back bedroom. We took all the furniture out of the back bedroom, moved it into the hallway, and so it was blocking every doorway, and so it made the hallway dark. But the bedroom was light because it was in the middle of the day. And I'm sitting there putting laminate flooring down, and I look in the doorway, and there's a woman, shadow person woman, peering around the door at me. And I said to her, why don't you come in and have a look around? We're just trying to make the place look good. And then she disappeared. But before that, the paranormal activity in the house was even stronger, but it got weaker as it went along. But yes, we still do experience paranormal activity in the house. And there's a lot of stories, and I could go on for the next hour about that one. So if you're hearing EVPs behind me, it would not surprise me in the least. So,
okay, I'm gonna go ahead and play that. It'll probably be about a minute or so, just to let you know.
No problem. Just let me know when it's over.
Sure.
And I'll explain it to everybody.
Okay. So I'm gonna play it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
There we go. Now let's see what happens after. There we go. Now let's see what happens after. There we go. Now let's see what happens after.
Alright, and I played that about 3 times for you.
Okay, so what you hear first on that is a baby, a toddler. And we're in the middle of Bala, which is a small town in Muskoka. And there is nobody around there. And it's October. The hotel was closed. There was nobody there. They opened up the hotel especially for us. And then you will hear what sounds like a maid. And she goes, "No, don't pick that up." And then she goes, "No." Oh, and she goes, first she says lime scale in the pool. And then she goes, no, don't pick that up. And in the background, you hear this baby crying or laughing. And it's just an amazing cacophony of different EVPs all coming through at the same time. Because I guess there's no one there to hear, is my only explanation. And it comes through. And you have to really listen to that several times. If you can play back the show and listen to it with headphones and just listen to these EVPs, you'll hear what I'm hearing. And by the way, there was a pool at the hotel, but it had been closed 5 years previous. So the pool had been closed for 5 years. Not to mention that the hotel was closed entirely. So that was a pretty amazing thing that we got there. And we got a lot of other amazing EVPs. Enough that when I went on the following Monday, because I went on their on their radio show, to talk about the EVPs we got on the Friday night, their jaws dropped because we actually had another EVP where my wife was in the kitchen and she was talking about the kitchen, and all of a sudden you hear whispers in the background and they go, "Oh, the fire, the horror, the fire." Well, it turned out that on October 28th, the day we were there, 90 years earlier, there was a fire in the neighboring town, and all of Bala had to go out and help put the fire out, and half the town burnt down. So I actually elicited about a minute worth of silence while the disc jockeys composed themselves. It was really funny. But it was really great getting that evidence. And it was quite an amazing evening, and we caught way more than that. Yeah, pretty good stuff.
I'm gonna bounce back to some of the questions, and then probably towards the end of once we finish the questions, we can go ahead and jump back with the EVPs. Everybody in the chat is astounded with them so far.
That's only two.
I know. How many investigations would you say you've been on?
Oh my gosh. Let's see. Maybe 20, 30, maybe more. 30, maybe 40. Yeah, over all those years. Yeah. Okay. And every time testing new equipment. When I first started this thing, I was making copper pyramids out of copper wire with crystals in the middle of them, and trying all kinds of weird stuff. Now when I look at how scientific the stuff I have now is, and the science that I based it on compared to when I first started, it's I've grown a lot.
And then next question I have, during an investigation, is there certain equipment that you prefer to use? Again, with this show, if there's any individuals that are interested in trying to join in the field of ghost hunting, I really ask this question to try to help them. Like K2 meters, voice recorders, camcorders, night vision, full spectrum, CCTV. Is there certain equipment that you feel you prefer to use over other stuff that's out there?
Well, I've built a lot of my own equipment, but I've also tried some other equipment. I don't prefer to use ghost boxes because and things like and devices that create vocabularies, because that's not the spirit talking, and I think I'm of the mind that spiritual or paranormal activity is governed by the same physical laws that we're governed by. And I have, in other words, if I can't make a vocabulary generator say what I want it to say, how can I expect a spirit to do that? Because I think that we're all governed under the same natural laws, at least when they're here. I also, I'm losing my train of thought. I have this idea, or a hypothesis, and my hypothesis is that when paranormal activity occurs, it occurs with a bubble around it. And inside that bubble, the atmosphere is very, very different than what we have here. And if you know a little bit about science, you'll know that sound waves travel differently in different atmospheres. In other words, gas like helium or oxygen, or in a vacuum. You know that sound does not travel in a vacuum. And most of the time when I get an EVP, I usually have to boost it up 10 decibels and slow it down and speed it up. And I think this is because of this paranormal bubble that's being created around the paranormal activity that's occurring. And eventually it dissipates, and then whatever paranormal activity is happening, then it isn't so affected by its environment. But when it first appears, I believe it affects us. Like when you feel nauseated, or when you feel sick, or when you feel dizzy, lightheaded, I believe it's because you end up within the scope of that paranormal bubble when that activity occurs, and that you think you're breathing air, but you're not. You're breathing the atmosphere of whatever is happening around that paranormal activity. And so you don't know how much of a lack of oxygen there might be. And all of these symptoms of being nauseated and dizzy and disoriented can all be attributed to a lack of oxygen. And nobody's thought of this yet, which is actually quite surprising on my part. Because my hypothesis on this paranormal bubble explains a lot. It explains why the EVPs sound so strange, why the pitch is wrong, why they're either loud or they're soft or they're fast or they're slow. It explains why people don't feel well. There's so many things that can be explained away by this paranormal bubble hypothesis that I have. And what was the original question? Because
was there a certain equipment that you prefer to use?
Right. So because I have a different way of thinking, right now most of my equipment is custom made. You see this here? This here, I know what it looks like. It looks like a salad bowl, right? Well, I'm pretty famous within the circle of my friends and peers for building this salad bowl, because I didn't have a lot of money to invest. This is a custom made thing. I took a stainless steel salad bowl, and if you look at this device here, they're called PZM microphones. I created a PZM microphone using an aluminum plate with two microphones on either side, and they just butt up against the plate, and it gives you stereo with the center channel, but it also knocks out all background noise. And because it's parabolic, you can go 300 feet away. Now, you've seen this, so that's actually a parabolic microphone, but a very special one. So let's look at some of the equipment in use today. Let's look at let's say even a digital recorder. So I believe that ghosts don't want to be heard. Most of them. Some of them do, some of them don't. Most of them don't. They're upset because they've left this life and they can't get it back. Okay? And they don't want to talk to you. So when you look at a digital recorder, such as this one, okay, that's the one that's in use right now, or any other recording device that might even have an external microphone, it's only good for 10 to 15 feet away. And yes, you're going to get an EVP at some point, but you're not recording in the right place. You don't know what you're missing. And that's why I don't think that vocabulary created devices and white noise devices and all of these things that color the sound or affect the sound, you're getting EVPs in spite of all those things. The best thing to do is to make it as clear as possible and to hear as far as you can with the equipment you have. This is not going to get an EVP past 10 feet. And ghosts, a lot of ghosts want to enter our conversation. I know I'm contradicting myself a little bit, but a lot of ghosts want to enter our conversation, but they don't want you to know. So they will talk, but they will be talking in the opposite corner of a room where you can't hear them. And this will not pick it up. This device, which is called my hat microphone, will pick it up because it uses a super sensitive amplifying device to increase the hearing range of the microphones. Also, I have a couple of the microphones on here, and they run up to 55,000 hertz. So it's a little higher than the normal hearing range. Normal hearing range is probably 15,000 hertz. In fact, our voices only run between 3 and 5,000 hertz. This little unit here takes that and just records from like 100, 200 feet away. And because it's in a 360-degree spread pattern, like that, it's picking up voice from the front, from the side, from the back, everywhere. And so the ghosts can't hide. They can't hide from you. You're going to hear them. And I can show you some later on if we have time to play more EVPs. I can show you where this has become evident and how I've recorded the EVPs. And so what I would suggest to you is to keep your recording equipment clean. And try to record as far as you can. And another thing I would suggest to you is, believe it or not, don't ask it silly questions. Because if I was a human being or a spirit, and you're asking me a question like, I don't know, like a really silly question, like, what year were you born? Well, excuse me, but who cares, right? If I'm a ghost and someone's asking me, what year are you born? Why do you want to know that? Why do you care, right? Because we're not treating them, we're not talking to them like humans. The best responses I have gotten, and if you want to play number 2, they will prove it to you. The best responses I've gotten is through silly bantering and conversation with another person. So if Dom wants to play number 2, you can hear my wife and I. We're sitting in a car, and we're just outside this cemetery, because I love this cemetery. And the recorder's on the dashboard. And I had a small parabolic microphone in my hand, and we had 2 recorders on the dashboard. But we're in an enclosed, quiet space, and that's why this was way before my hat mic. But this is why it came out so clear, because we were inside a car. We were sitting on the side of the road. We were inside a car. You can hear the EVP come in, answer a question, and then kick back out again. And we asked it, I don't know, I guess it was a silly question, but it was like off the cuff, like it wanted to be part of the conversation. It wanted to be part of life again, but it doesn't want you to know that it's part of life. So it didn't think it was being recorded. All of this stuff tricks the spirits into thinking they're not being heard. And so as far as EVPs go, that's really great. Now, before Dom plays that EVP, I also want you to know that I've tried K2 meters and electromagnetic devices, and I built electromagnetic devices. And I've received EVP, and while I'm receiving the EVP, I have not seen any electromagnetic device record any higher readings during receiving that EVP. So my jury is still out on that, on whether an electromagnetic device can actually read an energy field given off by a spirit. SB7s. Well, I told you why. I told you about the digital recorders, which I use, but I enhance the microphone on it. And ghost apps. I haven't seen any, like phone apps. I tried phone apps. I haven't seen any good results from any of those either. So really, I've maybe got 2 pictures in my life, and in the 14 years I've been doing this. One was at Bala Inn, and it's not a great picture. Another one was at a theater in a town about 15 minutes away. And unfortunately, I'm trying to receive it. It got lost on a bad. I can't even prove it because it got lost on a bad hard drive. I got to get the hard drive. I got to get the pictures pulled off the hard drive. But I've only received 2 pictures that I think are paranormal. And like I said, even one out of the 2 pictures is still sketchy for me. I wouldn't even say it was.
I can go ahead and play that for you if you want. Number 2.
Yeah, play number 2.
And I'll let you know as soon as it's all set.
Thank you.
Do you like the cold?
Isn't that a silly thing to ask a ghost?
Is it? Is it? Who knows? Who knows? Do you feel the cold? I'm not kidding you, it moved.
What moved?
After I said,
Yeah, I heard it.
what was it?
I don't know, but I heard it too. So, Mark, if...
Alright, and that went ahead and played through. And then...
So that one there was... Yep. You heard my wife bantering back and forth. And of course, my wife... my wife says, do you feel the cold? And I said, isn't that a silly thing to ask a ghost? And then the ghost answers. Most notably, to listen to that, you'll hear 3 thumps in front of the EVP and then 2 thumps behind it. And I thoroughly believe that was the spirit coming in, kicking in, and then leaving, and it was creating some kind of static on the tape recorder. You can hear it. It goes thump thump thump, and then it says no, and then you hear it and it goes thump thump, and then it kicks back out again. And we actually heard it. I heard it on my parabolic microphone, and I even said Mark, because we saw the tape recorders on the dashboard had VU meters, and we saw the VU meters jump up. In fact, it was my wife that saw it.
And then
so there you go.
And well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
The next question I actually did have for you was, I asked this because some individuals they enjoy to ghost hunt, and then some individuals enjoy to just go over the footage. I think the best investigator is actually the one that likes to do both. But what's your opinion? What do you find to be the greatest part of doing an investigation? Looking up the history, looking through the evidence, or actually just going in and doing the investigation?
Well, if you really want to know the truth, history bores me terribly. I'm not a history guy, although I like to know what went on in the place. But sometimes I just go in not knowing anything. I don't want anybody to tell me anything. At one location, I love investigating. At one location, I actually got pushed in the middle of my back, in front of a crowd of people too. On top of that, and I didn't even realize it was happening until I was on the ground, and I looked beside me at the people on my right and my left, and they didn't see a thing, but I sure felt it. But I do like the investigation. Sometimes it gets boring, sitting in the dark. The hard part is when I'm on an investigation, and you've got 8 hours of 4 tape recorders to listen to, and you have to go through everything, and it's boring as hell. But I tell you, when you get that one piece of evidence, the whole 8 hours just melts away, right? And sometimes it takes days and days, but it is so worth it when you get a really good piece of evidence. Fortunately, I find that within the first 20 to 25 minutes is when you're going to get most of your paranormal evidence. And so that makes it a bit easier. But you still have to listen to the other 8 hours of everybody talking. And it sometimes it's just, you fall asleep, then you have to go back and you have to start again. But like I said, getting that one piece of evidence just makes up for the whole thing. So so for me, it's review and being on the hunt.
To any new people that might be interested in joining the field, are there any tips that you might have for them? Possibly should they go find a team? Should they go out and find a buddy to investigate with? Should they do a lot of research beforehand? Should they go out and buy a voice recorder? Or what kind of tips would you give for somebody that's newly interested in the field?
Wow. Well, I wouldn't spend a lot of money at first. Keep your wallet closed. Don't go to psychics and pay them money. Don't just keep your minimum, right? And even though you may not get all EVPs, prove it to yourself first. Take your pictures with any basic camera, and when I first started, I went to garage sales. I bought Radio Shack tape recorders. I bought junk. I had stuff hanging around. But when I started to gather the evidence, then I felt it was worth putting more money into it and more money into it. But at first, don't spend the money. Prove to yourself first that it's worth doing what you're doing and getting the evidence you need to get. If it's not working for you, don't go any farther. But if you are getting evidence and you are seeing things, and then by all means go ahead, but don't kill yourself. It's not about going broke to become an investigator. And people go into it for different things. And if you want to be a celebrity ghost hunter, hey, be my guest. But everyone's going to forget about you in 20 years. If you actually take it from a scientific view, such as myself, I'm not a really popular guy out there. I'm not a celebrity ghost hunter. If you take it from the scientific view like I do, maybe one day I'll get my name in a history book. Maybe that's what I'm really hoping for. That I've changed a little bit. But everybody has their own agenda, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That happens with anything that you do, any hobby that's out there. Whether you're into muscle cars, whether you're into paranormal investigation, but treat the spirits of the paranormal with respect. Don't let it take over you. You take over it. Don't let it take over you. Um, and by all means, have a good time, because when it stops being fun, when you can't sleep at night, when you're afraid that some ghost is going to come along and hurt you or your family, that's the time you gotta kind of back off. Um, but have fun with it, enjoy it. Don't spend a lot of money with it. Start a group of good people. Understand that people are people, and everyone will have their own opinions and their own agendas, and you have to put those all together to make them work. And then think about what you really want to do with the evidence that you're gathering, because you're going to gather evidence. And you want to think about what you want to do with that. Whether you want to be a famous reality TV ghost hunter, whether you want to have your name down with Lloyd Auerbach and J.B. Ryan as paranormal investigators, think about what you want to do with it and what is your ultimate goal, and then work towards that goal. And like I said, every hobby or every science is multifaceted, and once you know what you want to do with it and you have clear goals, then you can achieve those goals and you get a lot more satisfaction out of it, and you'll be a lot happier investigating.
And then the next question I actually have for you, you kind of already answered it. It was, what's your viewpoint on things like spirit boxes? You already did kind of answer that, so I'm going to flip-flop that question. What is your viewpoint on things like Ouija boards? A lot of people have like this negative thought of Ouija boards, or some people don't think that they do anything. Just curious what your opinion is about the Ouija board and its relevance within the field.
I personally do not use Ouija boards. When I was a child, my older family members used the Ouija board, and I saw some pretty terrible things happen. Now, whether it was actually paranormal or whether it was created in their own mind, it doesn't matter. If you can't handle the pressure of a Ouija board, there are other ways to communicate. I communicate just fine with the equipment that I have, and I don't use a Ouija board. And a lot of scientists say it's idiomotor, and yes, it could be. That means where you're subconsciously pushing the glass. I have done experiments with Ouija boards where I invented a device that if you put pressure on it, it would light up. And I used it as the planchette. And the results were inconclusive. I still couldn't tell whether it was being pushed or not. But when you didn't have your fingers on it, it didn't move. And I guess the worst thing about a Ouija board is there are so many negative things connected with it that just the thought of it can put you in the wrong frame of mind and cause problems. So I stay away from a Ouija board. Some people can handle it, and some people can't. I would never use it to communicate because I don't need it. I can communicate scientifically.
Okay.
So that's my thoughts.
And then, is there certain devices or applications that are out in the field that you feel work better than others? I personally, I can go to the route of, Ghost Stop. I bought things through them. And personally myself, it actually pushed me to try to create gear because some of the stuff they're putting out there isn't the greatest. But then I've also used stuff from like the Ghost Hunter store and a few other ones out there that seemed a little more solid. But I think once you waste money on faulty gear, it actually pushes you to try to create your own stuff. And
I totally agree with you. However, not everybody has the wherewithal to create their own. I have a background in electronics, and and I really love the sciences. I mean, I was a nerd from the way back, so it was easy for me. But it's not easy for everybody. But what I did, which is something that I believe was lacking in every other ghost paranormal investigator, I listened to what those spirits were actually saying. That last EVP where it said, "Do you feel the cold?" and it said no. Well, what does that tell you? That its environment, it's not affected by its environment. Now, you get another ghost hunter who might be out there, or a ghost investigator. Ghost hunters is but you get another ghost investigator there, and he gets an EVP like that, throws it on YouTube, says, "Wow, isn't this great?" but is not actually listening to what is being said. And when you do that, you learn a lot more. How many times was I was told to F off, get out, go away, leave me alone. And what does that tell me? That tells me the psychological mindset of the spirits that are out there and what they're saying. Listen to what they're saying to you and then extrapolate from there. Some of them are cynical. I have gotten an EVP at least 3 times where it said something, it answered a question before it was actually said. So what does that tell me? Are they reading minds? Like, how do they know that? Is time a different thing for them? So you got to listen to that evidence, analyze that evidence, and base your equipment on that evidence. There's a lot of stuff out there. It's great to custom make your stuff, but think about all of the things that you can use, that things that we're not looking at right now, that can give you more evidence. They're all looking at the same stuff. Start thinking outside of the box. And one of them would be, here is my hypothesis, which is unproven, but here's my hypothesis about a paranormal bubble that has no oxygen in it. And you're starting to feel dizzy. Well, guess what? Walk around. For $30, you can buy a little oxygen meter that fits on the end of your finger. And see if there's enough oxygen in your blood to keep you upright, or why there isn't any oxygen in your blood. That's just one thing to think about that nobody has ever thought about. There are so many other environmental things that we can check, and we can do it cheaply. Pressure in a room. Nobody checks pressure in a room. Nobody checks, well, we check temperature, but there are so many things. Just sit down and think about, if I was a ghost and I wanted to communicate, how would I do that? And then think about how you could create a device that would get you there, that would get you thinking, or that would be able to record how that ghost wants to communicate with you rather than you wanting to communicate with the ghost, right? Okay.
What would you say you feel is possibly the worst thing ever that you've came across within the field? Dead or alive?
Well, that's a toss-up.
I like tossing that last piece in there now.
Yeah. Wow. The worst thing ever. I think when I was a child and I was purposely haunted, for 3 years, this ghost walked up and down the hallway of my house on purpose to keep me up. And I thought to myself, how frickin' vindictive this thing must be to do that to me for 3 years. To the point where like in the last year or two, I had to sleep with my fingers inside my ears because I was so afraid of listening to this thing. And I think outside of fear, there was a lot of fear. But to think that something could be so vindictive that it would do that, that is something to think about. And that is why you don't taunt ghosts. You don't call them idiots. You don't mess with them, because you have no control over them. You can't get a restraining order for a ghost. So you don't have control about how long or what it wants to do to you. When it comes right down to that, that's what you got to worry about. That you have no control. That's one of my biggest fears, is we have no control over spiritual activity. You think you do, you don't.
And a question I like to ask everybody is, what is your theory of why or how ghosts exist? Do you think it's a person that passed away and they're lingering, like they're stuck here? They don't want to go to heaven, they don't want to go to hell? Or do you think it's something beyond that? What's your theory with why or how a ghost truly exists?
Wow, that's really interesting. I have not given it much thought. I just know that they do exist. And I can explain scientifically how they do what they do with my paranormal bubble hypothesis, but it doesn't explain why. It doesn't explain how all that came about in the first place. I don't have an answer. I know something very interesting. I hope we have time if we could play one more EVP, which is number 12. Oh, sorry. Yeah, number 12. And that's the one. I was on an investigation in a Legion Hall up here in Canada. One of the lead investigators was Robin Pyatt Bellamy, who you know about. She had broken her toes, but I did not know this. And Robin was on painkillers at the time because of a car accident she had. So her mood wasn't all that great. She had broken her toes and she's sitting at a table. Now, I had my salad bowl mic at that time, but it picked up a very long EVP conversation. And you have to... Now, the reason I'm asking you to listen to this is because, again, it was more than one EVP at a time. And so you will hear this female nurse speaking to Robin, okay? And it will address her by name. And in the background, if you go to listen to the show again, you have to listen very carefully. There's a whisper, a male whisper. And just before this was caught, Robin and I were making jokes about the bar. And we were talking about the names of the bottles. Johnny Walker, Jimmy Beam. And we were making fun of the names. And all of a sudden, you'll hear the guy whisper, and he says, "Stopped heaven for this?" So he didn't like us fooling around. But then when I analyzed what the guy said, holy crap, he stopped heaven for this. He didn't go to heaven because he wanted to be with his buddies at the Legion Hall, loved life so much, and there he was. He didn't like our joking around, but there he was, stopped heaven for this. Now, does that tell me there's a heaven? Wow, I'd like to think so. And the fact that we have a choice whether we want to go or not, wow, like that's incredible. So if you have, I hope you have enough time.
Yeah.
The
Again,
one that says Robin.
Yeah, again, I'll play that and then let you know as soon as it's all done playing.
Okay, thank you. great. So you hear the woman, and she goes, and at the very beginning, you can't hear it, but it's kind of there. She says something like Wiccan, but she doesn't say Wiccan. She says, okay, like she's talking to someone else. And then she says, Robin, are you experiencing sadness? And then she says, I can't remember the rest, and I didn't hear it. She says, are you experiencing sadness? She says, I was in a ward for this. So she was in a military ward. Because, again, Legion Hall tie-in, speaking directly to the investigator. But at the very beginning, you can hear the voice say, stopped heaven for this, in a male whisper. And it just blows me right away to hear that. And again, listen to your evidence, man. They're telling you something.
Now, a question I do like to ask all the people on the show as well is, were you ever what you would call a skeptic, or per se a non-believer? Or have you always kind of had a thought of belief within the paranormal?
Well, I guess I have to say, I've always been a believer. The haunting started when I was 5 years old. And they never stopped. Well, they did stop when I was about 12 or 13, and I left that house. I went across the ocean, came back. They started again when I was about 16 or 17. Some houses are really clean, and then other houses I've had some really fantastic paranormal experiences in. This one is a fantastic paranormal experience. I'm not afraid of the ghosts that are here. I'm not going to remove them because we're only the second owners of this house. And I'm quite happy with them. Like they don't bother me. But yes, from the time I was 5 years old, I have been experiencing the paranormal. So yeah, there's never been any doubt in my mind of all the things that I saw and experienced.
And then next, any viewers, if you have any questions for our guest, please feel free to write that in the chat, and we'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you may have. I'm going to go ahead and play that number one EVP.
Yeah. So I can talk about that after. Yeah.
Okay. And I'll let you know as soon as that's done playing as well.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding. I thought you were right here.
Well, I wasn't. So I'm gonna. Yeah.
And I'm not kidding. I thought you were right here.
Well, I wasn't. So I'm gonna.
All right, and that's all set playing as well.
Okay. So that was the very, very first EVP I ever caught. It was on a Radio Shack tape recorder with a mic that wouldn't have recorded a voice more than 5 feet away. And what happened was I laid the tape recorder on the ground. I was in that cemetery I'm telling you about. My wife was taking a picture of me as I was putting the tape recorder on the ground. And she stops and she says, I'm not kidding. I saw something walked right in front of me. And I said, well, it wasn't me. And then you hear a voice and it says, it was me. And that's what that warbly tone was. And what was really weird is you think that's special, but I actually heard another EVP on another website from somebody completely different, like 3 months before, because I'd been surfing the web, and it sounded exactly the same. It wasn't the same words, but it was done in the same manner, that warbly tone. And it falls in between the audio frequencies, and I don't know what they did, but that was the first one I ever got, and it said it was me. So it actually acknowledged the fact that it had walked in front of the camera while the camera was up at my wife's face. So that was, when we heard that, I jumped 3 feet up in the air, not because I was afraid, I was jumping for joy. That was cool, because that was the first one. It was really...
Question coming from the chat is, how long do you do a recording to get an EVP? Like, how long do you do burst sessions, or do you do like a 3-4 hour session? How long do you record for?
I record from the second I put this on. I'm talking about, I'm out in the parking lot before I even go in. I turn that thing on. And I don't leave until I'm a mile away from, I'm driving with this device on. And I'm a mile away from wherever the investigation is taking place. And I'll tell you why. Because I've had paranormal activity happen in my house 2 weeks before I go to an investigation. And not just me, my whole family's experiencing it. And after the investigation. So that's telling me that they know we're coming. And they know, sorry, we're out in that parking lot. We're putting that stuff on. You don't know what you're going to miss. And the best stuff I found is caught within the first half an hour. After that, yeah, you can get stuff. But that first half an hour, they want to talk. They haven't spoken to anybody in a long time. And they want to interact. And you know, after that, it kind of peters out. But that first half hour is critical. From the minute you get in there, you should have that thing on and running. And again, normal conversations are what draws these in. Not standing around in a dark room, asking silly questions. Okay? They're not going to answer you. You'll get something. Some will answer you, but very little. You really want a response, hold a conversation with somebody. Then you see your response. You will get a big difference. So.
And John, I'd like to thank you for coming on for our interview with the Ghost Hunter series. And also I'd like to give you the option right now, or the opportunity, if you would like to give any shout outs for any upcoming projects, or a website, or any way for individuals to contact you if they're interested in learning more about you and what you're doing out in the field. So I'm going to go leave that to you.
Okay, thank you. I don't, like I said, I'm not a real celebrity kind of guy. I've done a few interviews, but I'm more of a scientific nature. If you wish to contact me, you can contact me at mvtms@bell.net. That's my email address, and you can send me some emails, and even send me some EVPs if you want them. If you want them analyzed. I've done a lot of EVP work, even with scientists from England. I've got a lot of experience that way. I can pick them out pretty good. I can help you find EVPs in your recordings, but please don't inundate me. Upcoming projects. I have been ill for the past little while. Things are getting better. So I am going to be conducting a few more investigations, developing my equipment a little more. I have some ideas for possible hypothesis for speaking to spirits directly, translating thought. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm just thinking about it. It's a hypothesis. Lots of experimentation coming up. I'd love to do some work with John Sable, Brian Parsons, who have helped me lately, Robin Pyatt Bellamy, Terry Altuna, and Alex Matsuro are all people that I kind of hang out with. Elsie Leyland I hang out with. They're all good people, and we're probably going to be doing some investigations together in the future. So, yeah, so that's what's upcoming right now.
And any individuals, you can find Robin or Alex have also done the interview with the Ghost Hunter. You can find their episodes in the first season of Interview with the Ghost Hunter. Both of them were on fairly early on, and they had some really good information and insight that they're able to also give to anybody that's viewing the series. John, thank you so much again for coming on. You have some great ideas, great theories, and I truly hope individuals see things out of this that are able to help them.
Thank you for letting me express my views. I know they're different from the mainstream paranormal views that are out there right now, and I too hope that it helps some people and sort of changes the way they think about the paranormal and treat it with respect, and they'll get respect back.
And everybody, don't forget to check out upcoming shows on Paranormal Global TV. The featured link is on our YouTube channel. We also have new shows coming up in November that will be later announced, the titles and so forth of those. And as always, every Friday we do the Spirit Box Weekly live, testing out different applications, devices of Spirit Boxes to see what we can find. Thank you all for tuning in, and you guys have a beautiful rest of the evening, and hope to see you later in the week.
Thank you again, Dom.
Very welcome.